Excuse me, I don't know what that was all about. Excuse me.
We got the volume turned up today.
Yeah, we do. Welcome everybody to the new and latest show, the latest installment of Reaching the Pinnacle here at the beautiful Pinnacle Studios. Being live, that means that you are able to talk to us. If you were on the Spreaker app, we have a little chat thing in there. You can click the chat button and ask us questions as we go, and we will live talk to you. Or you can talk to us on Facebook. If you know us personally, hit us on our phone.
I probably won't get that.
Well, I think I can multitask with the best of them, but between doing this and answering anything on my phone, I mess something up. So I'll see if I can get to you if you say something. But
sounds good.
Welcome. We are on another topic. This is actually a listener request that we're going to talk about this week.
Yeah.
And I don't know the story, so if you want to talk about...
No, somebody just asked me if we would do a... somebody's been working out here for a while, utilizing trainer and whatnot. They were just kind of curious about cravings, you know. What do you do if you get that...
Now, are we talking... Oh, go ahead.
Well, say, it's 10 o'clock at night, yeah.
And you want to work out? You have cravings to work out? Cravings to watch TV?
Well... Probably for Doritos.
Okay. Now,
junk food craving, yeah.
Now we're on the same wavelength. I know these cravings pretty well. And they're no fun. You know, they're good for that 5 minute, you drive to Poncho's and you get your carne asada meal, and about halfway through that you think to yourself, you kind of come out of your haze. Yeah, you're the maniac inside, the animal inside is starting to become appeased. And now
guilt.
The real person comes out, and you're like, "Oh no, what did I do?"
Well, I got to be totally honest. I've never felt like that, and I'm just being honest. I feel like if I'm going to eat something, I don't let it bother me, and I just move on from there.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody.
But again, that's just me. So,
well, I think. For a lot of people, and I think there's a spectrum. I think there's people where it just completely cripples them, and then there's people like you that it doesn't bother you. And especially, and I've seen you and I've talked to you over the last 10 years through off season and on season and off season for bodybuilding, and I know you're you're a stone cold killer. Like you're even killed. You don't let that stuff get to you. You're pretty strong willed. So for somebody that may be in the middle of the road. Who kind of fluctuates in and out of willpower, if you will, or drive. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I mean, there's a lot of angles. There's a lot of different ways to discuss this because it does depend on the person and kind of their goal and where they're at with their workout routine, diet routine. All these factors come into play. For some people, they're just wired differently, so. If they have a cheat meal, right, that's all they need, and they're kind of, it fixes their problem, and they're back on track for a certain amount of time.
That's how I am.
Okay, that's how you are. Other people, they have that cheat meal, and it just ignites a fire, and they just want another one, and another one. They just can't be satisfied.
Right.
And so for those kind of individuals, that personality or whatever, that, basically they need to stay away from them maybe as much as they can,
right?
Because it just creates a bigger problem for them. So some people, it's just usually it's again the sugar. I mean, some people it seems like you give them a little bit of sugar and they just want a lot more.
Right.
Give somebody a little bit and they're like, okay, I'm good for a week. It just varies, and so again, it depends on what they're trying to do. I mean, if they're on a competition diet or something, it's a lot more strict and a lot more important to stay, on the money. Then definitely you can't do that. But if you're just maybe not trying to be as strict and you can give yourself a little bit of leeway there, then maybe you're okay. But I know I discussed with the lady there that and a couple other people during the last week that we would maybe discuss ways to, if you're trying to avoid these things, what are some tips maybe,
Right. Well, before we start that, I know that we talked one time, and we might have even, sorry, I had to do something there, and we might have even talked about this a little bit on the show. This might have been one of the very first episodes. I can't remember. It's been almost 2 years now, but you just for easy math's sake, there's 7 days in a week. You said let's take 3 meals a day, so that's 21 meals. That's a lot of meals. So out of the course of 21 meals, you had said something along the lines of if you mess up on 1 or 2, that's not a lot. It's when you start getting those higher percentages of your week,
Yeah, we said something around 90% clean equals lean is what it sticks with you. I mean, remember that, and it was a year or two ago. So that's true, though. I mean, if you really think about that, if 90% of what you're eating is good for you, and you're on track, you're not breaking the rules,
right? Then
that 10% is not going to, sink the ship.
Right, and you guys have probably heard us out there in the listening world that, there's also such a thing as too clean, but we don't necessarily need to get into that right now because we're not talking about that. But there is such a thing as too clean.
We can touch on it, but it's probably not that relevant again for most people. But there is a certain set of circumstances where if somebody is very, very lean, very lean, for a guy maybe 5%, 4%, 6%, somewhere in there, that if they're continually trying to lose even more body fat, then sometimes actually feeding with these other kinds of maybe junk type food may bring their metabolism up a little bit and keep them burning body fat. But again, that's more of somebody doing a competition or something that's already very, very lean.
Right.
I get people asking me a lot when I do diets for them or help them maybe get ready for a show, but they're or just average everyday folks that aren't getting ready for a show. Maybe they're not at 5% body fat, right?
Right.
Way beyond that. And they ask me about cheat meals. Like, hey, I've been dieting for a week or two. I really want a cheat meal. What do you think? And I'm like, hey, really, if you need one mentally, sure. If it helps you mentally to stay on track for the coming week or whatever, that's great. I'd go ahead and do that.
Right.
But if it's just because, if that's going to lead to
a 3-day binge.
Your body doesn't really need one. It's not going to benefit from it, is what I'm saying. Physically, it may benefit emotionally or mentally, and if that's the case, go ahead. But if it's just going to feed into more cheat meals on, then no.
Right.
You have to use these cheat meals as, you got to build them into your program to be beneficial, not detrimental. And that does take willpower again. I had noticed, for example, maybe we're getting off track here, but I've noticed like if I'm getting ready for a competition where I'm trying to lose body fat, right? If I just tell myself, even now, even if I'm not getting ready for anything, I'm just doing my normal thing. If I tell myself, well, if I want to tonight or Saturday night or tomorrow afternoon or whatever, if I just tell myself, I can have something if I want it. May not know what it is, just if it comes up, then a lot of times that emotionally just is all that I really needed, because then it gets to that time, maybe that Saturday night, and then there's the opportunity to have whatever, and I'd pass it up.
Yep, I've done that before. Absolutely,
and I feel fine.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's almost in some cases self-gratifying in that you're going to let yourself, and you've been thinking about it, and sometimes, and I've gone the other way too. Sometimes I fantasize about that burger, and I'm like, now it's time for the burger. I'm going to shove it. I don't even know if I'm going to chew it. But there's other times where it's like, I'm good. I'll get the chicken or something.
It's the psychology of the whole thing.
Right.
It's like if you know you cannot have something, you want it more.
Right.
If you know you can have something, but you don't necessarily have to take that something, a lot of times you can pass on it. Because well, if I need it, it's there.
Right. Good point.
So. Sure.
So, okay, tips. We got a little bit off track. So what are some tips that we can do to fight those cravings?
I was hoping you'd have some.
Oh, man. I don't fight them. Hence the way I look, ladies and gentlemen.
No. You know how to fight them. One way is just to wait a little bit. Okay, so if you're feeling, it's 9 o'clock and you're like, one thing, these usually happen at night.
Sure, yeah.
I don't know why, but usually you have cravings at night. During the morning and afternoon, usually they're a lot easier to manage if you have them at all. So let's say it's 9 or 10 o'clock at night and you want the ice cream or the peanut butter crunch cereal or the leftover pizza in the refrigerator, whatever. Just give yourself like 20 minutes and see if you still want it.
Yeah.
A lot of times it'll go away.
Yeah.
I tell people sometimes, just do something different. Go on a walk. Watch the TV show you like. Take a shower. Go to bed.
Yeah, go to bed.
again, I don't know. A lot of times you just get your mind off of that, and you're fine. Because usually you're really not hungry.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's just something with the body at that time of the day or night that it just craves junk food.
Right. Well, I was going to say, I know one thing that makes people crave sugar, especially, is if you're somebody that is taking part of a lower carbohydrate diet, sometimes your body needs to be tricked and retricked almost, because you have to teach your body how to run off of fat as energy rather than carbohydrates. So you're going to go through a period, and it might have a relapse every now and then in which your body is like, oh my gosh, I need sugar, I'm starving. So you go into starvation mode and you become ravenous. And so some people give in, some people don't. But if you kind of know where that's coming from, then I think that gives you power over what you're craving, right?
It does. And tying into that, if you're feeling like you're having a craving, a lot of times just have something that clean.
Yeah.
Or, just eat your normal, regular food, and sometimes...
Yeah, making yourself full.
As soon as that little bit of... Again, you're feeling hungry, but you're really probably not needing food, is what I'm saying. So if you kind of just have a little bit of food, make sure it's a good food, that hunger that you're feeling may dissipate, and then the cravings go away.
Right.
That's the thing. If your body is telling you you're hungry... and you start to feel like the low blood sugar, and you're kind of getting that, really you may not need food that much, you probably don't, but that is a very strong drive or a strong force to resist.
Uh-huh.
So
right. Well, we have you touched on something that I was wanting to think about maybe later on, but we can talk about it now. Is there's some research out there, and I don't know how valid it is, but there's some research out there that says if you assign those cravings to something, like if you're craving a piece of lasagna, like a hunk, I guess, of lasagna, or if you're craving, and I might be speaking for myself, but like a chicken fried steak with some mashed potatoes or something like that. I don't know what your cravings are. I don't know what anybody's cravings are. But anyways, if you assign a name or a face to that craving, sometimes they say it's almost better to partake at least in a little bit of that particular craving than to just randomly eat, because what they say and what they reason is that you're going to eat what you eat to try to curb that craving, but then in an hour or two or whenever, you're going to get that what you wanted anyway. So that means you've eaten twice the calories. You think that's a healthy thought process? Or do you think you just go through it?
I really don't know. I mean, again, for certain individuals, I'm sure that's probably fine.
Yeah.
But again, sometimes you start having that food that you're craving, and you say, well, I'll have half of this chicken fried steak, and as well as I know that half turns into the whole, plus the side of gravy, plus the couple of rolls there with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's hard just to have a little bit of anything when you're craving it.
Well, and that becomes a 1,000-calorie meal just like that, easily.
Yeah. So I guess maybe overall, I don't know how helpful we're being here with tips or not, but I think just some guidelines, though. Maybe if I'm just going to back up and say, well, how do you really go about doing this?
Sure.
Is make sure you're eating multiple times throughout the day, so that you're not allowing yourself to get very hungry.
Right.
So every 3 or 4 hours, have something that you good to eat. Make it a balanced diet.